Imagine two employees, let's call them Sarah and David. Both are hired in the same quarter. Both have identical degrees, and both consistently score in the top 10% on their annual performance reviews. They are, by all measurable metrics, equally talented. Fast forward 3 years. David is managing a newly formed division with a substantial budget, direct access to the executive team, and a compensation package heavily weighted in equity. Sarah is trapped in the exact same role she was hired for, exhausted, training her second round of new hires, and waiting for a standard 3% cost of living adjustment. From the outside, the organization will say David simply showed more initiative. What they won't say is that David's trajectory was locked in by a single, structural decision he made in his first 6 months, a decision Sarah didn't even realize was on the table. We are conditioned to believe that corporate outcomes are a pure reflection of talent, hard work, and loyalty. But inside the modern corporation, talent is nothing more than a baseline requirement. What actually separates the stagnant from the accelerated are a few quiet, high-leverage choices that dictate how the system processes you. If you want to understand the hidden rules of work before they cost you, subscribe. People naturally think a career is a ladder you climb through raw effort. You do good work, the work gets noticed, and the organization rewards you with upward mobility and better compensation. This is a mental model we inherit from our academic years. In school, you study hard, you pass the test, and you are automatically advanced to the next grade. We assume the corporate system is inherently neutral, designed to objectively measure our outputs and compensate us fairly. That sounds logical, until you look at what is actually happening behind the closed doors of human resources and executive planning committees. The corporate architecture is not a meritocracy. It never was. It is a highly complex, self-preserving resource allocation machine. It does not reward effort, it rewards alignment. It does not promote based on past performance. It promotes based on perceived future utility, political risk, and structural proximity to power. When you realize this, you stop focusing exclusively on getting better at your job, and you start looking at the invisible currents beneath the floorboards. There are 5 critical decisions you will make in your career. Most people make them unconsciously, defaulting to whatever feels safe, whatever their manager suggests, or whatever HR advises. By the time they realize their mistake, their trajectory has already been permanently capped. The first decision that radically outweighs your raw talent is where you position yourself in relation to the company's lifeblood, revenue. Most employees look at a job description and assess whether they have the skills to execute the daily tasks. They do not look at how that specific department is classified on the company's ledger, but every role inside a corporation falls into one of 2 rigid financial categories. You are either part of a profit center or you are part of a cost center. Sales, product development, and strategic expansion generate capital. They are the profit centers. Human resources, customer support, and compliance consume capital. They are the cost centers. What makes this harder to see is that companies will publicly praise their cost centers relentlessly. They will call customer support the heartbeat of the organization. They will call it the invisible heroes. But praise is cheap, and corporate applause does not translate to compensation. When executive leadership sits down to distribute the annual budget, approve new headcount, or greenlight promotions, the math takes over. Cost centers are structurally designed to be minimized. The mandate for a cost center manager is always to do more with less, to drive efficiency, and to shrink the operating footprint. Profit centers, however, are designed to be scaled. When a profit center asks for a larger budget, it is viewed as an investment in future growth. If you are a highly talented individual working in a cost center, your excellence actually works against you. You become indispensable to a machine that is desperately trying to reduce its own operating costs. Your salary stagnation is not a reflection of your worth. It is a structural necessity of your department. If you want leverage, you must make the conscious decision to migrate toward the money. You must attach your talent to the mechanisms that generate revenue. Talent in a cost center buys you a plaque and an Employee of the Month certificate. Mediocrity in a profit center buys you a promotion. The second decision is how you respond to the invisible trap of non-promotable labor, often referred to as glue work. Every team has structural gaps. There are processes that don't quite work, databases that need organizing, new hires that require informal onboarding, and emotional conflicts that need smoothing over. This is glue work. The corporate system absolutely relies on it to function, but it has no formal code in the compensation band. Employees, especially those who want to be perceived as team players, eagerly volunteer for this work. They believe that being helpful creates visibility, and visibility creates promotion. There is a second layer to this dynamic. Middle management explicitly encourages glue work because it solves their immediate operational headaches for free. They will praise your collaborative spirit. But when performance review season arrives, the evaluation matrix does not measure how well you organize the knowledge base or how much time you spent counseling a junior colleague through a crisis. The matrix strictly measures core deliverables and strategic impact. The system demands glue work to survive, but it aggressively penalizes the individual who performs it by diluting their focus from promotable metrics. What most employees never realize is that by becoming the reliable glue, you are inadvertently signaling to the organization that you are a utility player, not a strategic leader. You get locked into the wrong perception. You become too valuable in the trenches to ever be elevated to the balcony. Over time, you will sit in meetings and watch less helpful, more ruthlessly focused peers get promoted above you. The critical career decision is not figuring out how to do everything perfectly. It is learning exactly which work to let fail and which work to aggressively claim as your own. You must decide to optimize for your own metrics, even if the team's operational friction temporarily increases. The third decision that dwarfs talent is who you choose to attach your career to. The corporate world is obsessed with the concept of mentorship. HR initiatives will assign you a mentor. Leadership books will tell you to find a mentor. Mentors are people who give you advice, share their experiences, and help you navigate complex office dynamics. Mentorship feels safe and supportive. But advice does not alter your position on a 9-box talent matrix when the executive committee meets to decide who gets the director title. The real mechanism behind accelerated promotion is sponsorship, and there is a vast structural difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A mentor talks to you. A sponsor talks about you behind closed doors. A sponsor is someone with systemic power, a high degree of political capital, and a physical seat at the table where compensation and succession planning are finalized. When a new, high-visibility initiative is being assigned, a sponsor leverages their own reputation to forcefully advocate for you. They do not do this out of kindness. They do this because you have made the strategic decision to align your success with theirs. You are executing on their vision, and your competence serves as a proxy for their empire building. If you only have mentors, you will have excellent advice while you stall out in middle management. Without a sponsor, you have absolutely no defense when the executive team is looking for someone to blame for a failed initiative, or when headcount needs to be reduced to please shareholders. Your talent cannot speak for itself in a room you are not allowed to enter. You must decide to stop seeking wise advisors and start identifying power centers. Find the executives who have a track record of pulling people up with them, figure out what their biggest structural problem is, and solve it. The fourth decision is perhaps the most mathematically punishing: how you handle your initial compensation anchor and internal equity. Most people view a job offer as a static, isolated event. You negotiate a little, you accept the base salary, and you assume your ongoing hard work will result in annual raises that reflect your growing value to the company. This belief ignores the quiet, mathematical violence of corporate compounding. What most people never see is the strict architecture of human resource compensation bands. Once you are inside the company, your financial growth is governed by internal equity guidelines. These policies typically cap internal raises at 3 to 8%, regardless of how much your responsibilities increase or how much revenue you generate. Even if you secure a major promotion, HR might stretch the raise to 12%, citing budget constraints. But the budget for external hiring is drawn from an entirely different pool. When a company hires from the outside, they are forced to pay current market rates. This creates a bizarre but mathematically guaranteed reality. The longer you stay loyal to a company, the more underpaid you become relative to the open market. You can be the most talented engineer or analyst on the floor, but if you started at a low base salary 5 years ago, the new hire walking in tomorrow, who you will likely have to train, is almost certainly making 20% more than you. You cannot outwork a low initial anchor. The decision that dictates your lifetime earning potential is not how hard you hustle for an annual bonus. It is the calculated decision to leave. To reset your financial anchor, you must periodically force the market to reprice your value by moving to a competitor. In the modern corporate structure, loyalty is nothing more than a structural tax on your lifetime earnings. The final and most psychologically difficult decision is recognizing and acting upon your internal expiration date. Every employee, no matter how talented, has a life cycle within a specific organizational structure. When you first arrive at a company, you are a solution to a problem, you bring fresh perspective, you fix broken systems, and your internal stock is high. Leadership is excited about your potential, but corporations are by design echo chambers. Over time, your narrative solidifies. The real problem is that organizations have incredibly long memories for your early mistakes and shockingly short memories for your recent successes. If you entered a company as a junior analyst, leadership will always subconsciously view you as a junior analyst, even after you have spent 4 years performing at a director level. The system locks you into a specific perception box based on your original point of entry. Once you are in that box, your runway for rapid acceleration vanishes. You become part of the furniture. If you do not recognize when your narrative has hardened, you will waste your most productive years trying to change the minds of people who have already permanently categorized you. You will experience a soft, quiet career delay. You will start getting passed over for external hires. You will be told you just need 1 more year of seasoning before the next promotion. You will survive rounds of layoffs only to find yourself buried under triple the workload with no corresponding bump in title. The most strategic decision you can make is to leave a company exactly 12 to 18 months before your upward mobility officially flatlines. You must exit while your internal stock is still perceived as valuable enough to leverage into a higher title elsewhere. You manage your exit, or the organization manages your decline. If you look closely at these 5 decisions, a singular, uncomfortable truth emerges. Your career is not a report card. The issue is not just your effort, your raw intelligence, your loyalty, or your competence. The issue is how the system is structured and what signals it actually rewards. The corporation is a machine. It does not love you, it does not hate you, and it certainly does not care about your personal definition of fairness. It simply executes its programming. It minimizes operational costs, it protects its power centers, and it extracts maximum utility from those who do not understand its rules. You can spend the next decade perfecting your craft, putting in 60-hour weeks, and waiting for the organization to finally recognize your inherent value. But talent alone will only make you a highly efficient cog in someone else's machine. The system will always offer what it thinks you'll accept. If you do not manage the signal, the organization will do it for you. The ceiling only works if you don't know it's there.